Hello and welcome once again to another Cup of Conversation here on BRT TV. My name is Jan Ghazi, and in the studio today, once again, I have an old friend, and really, I mean an old friend, because I think that Dincel Şükrettin was the first person, or one of the first people I met when I began working here at BRTK, although unfortunately she left BRT many years ago, but she's back here in the studios, famous face to some of you maybe who've been watching BRT for many, many years. Then Dincel was a newsreader here. She's now back in the BRTK studios talking about education. She's a teacher and she's got her own school. We'll be talking about the Montessori method of education here on the programme today. So Dincel, welcome back to BRT.
Thank you, John. It's nice to be back.
It's nice to be in front of the camera, maybe. I'm not sure how many years it's been since you sat in front of a camera in the studio.
It's been a very long time, let's say. But yes, it was very different. It's nice to see things have changed.
Yes, this studio at least has developed since you were last year.
Yes, a lot, yes. It's good to be back.
Let's find out more about you. Now, Dincel, like myself, you're a Turkish immigrant from the UK.
Yes.
And I think that we probably moved to Cyprus around the same time, because you said that you you came to BRT in '94, and so did I. But months between us, you came to BRT first before me, and that's how I remember when I was introduced to Haluk.
Yes,
I think you were sitting in the office on the typewriter then.
That's right, yes, the typewriters, yes.
You said Dincel is one of our newsreaders here, but that's how I remember you. But when did you come back to Cyprus? What year was it?
In '93. We moved here with my parents in '93, and yeah, a short while after I started work at BRT, and then we met.
Yes, and so you obviously grew up and had your education in the UK, and like me, I think after education, when your family moved out, you moved out as well.
Yes, well, it sounded so appealing, because the grey skies of the UK were not making me feel too good, and I think I felt I needed something more, something different, and the idea of Cyprus, with all my experiences of holidays, really appealed to me. So yes, I kind of encouraged them to make the move a little bit quicker, and we came in '93 with my parents, and soon after that my sisters and their families came along and settled too.
Yes, and I think your eldest sister, Nurten Oral, she's quite famous as well.
Yes.
Well, she was a fitness instructor at one point, and now she's got her own. Well, she was a hairdresser for many years. I think she's got an academy now. Yes,
she was doing hairdressing. She was training as well, which is something not so common here with UK accreditation as well. Yes.
It's been a long time since I've seen Nurten. I remember interviewing her for Places and Faces. So hi, Nurten, if you're watching. And so you came to Cyprus, and I know you did a couple of jobs, but you ended up here at BRT at one point. Yes. In '94 we met.
Yes.
And you were a newsreader. You did a couple of CNN World reports for BRT. So you had a bit of a time in media.
Yes.
And how long were you here at BRT for in total?
Just over 10 years.
Long time.
Yeah, just over 10 years. It was a long time, and like you said, I did newsreading. We worked on CNN World Report. We worked together at one point. And yeah, I enjoyed my time here. I learned a lot, and it was nice trying out new things, and you know, there was a lot to learn, there was a lot to discover. It was all brand new to me, but especially the CNN World Report time was a time that I felt really satisfied, because it was quite a novelty for a TV station like BRT in the northern part of Cyprus, to be able to have a voice, an unedited voice on CNN. So I was really happy to be a part of that at the time. That
was a good time in the history of BRTK, in the English language department at least,
definitely,
for you to be part of that.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you decided that enough was enough and you wanted to change direction, and you went into education. Now I remember, didn't you have your initial degree at Nevis University?
I did, yes.
As an English teacher.
That's right, yes.
So what happened there, Dincel? I mean, why education, or did you want to just do something completely different to what you were doing at the time?
I think so. I think I needed more human interaction. I think I needed to feel that I was making more of a difference, and I think that's why education appealed to me. And so, yes, I did my degree there at university in English language teaching, and I soon started working, and obviously ended up leaving BRT and the whole world of media that I was in. And then I found myself teaching full-time children 11 plus. And what I soon discovered was that I was spending an awful lot of time not actually teaching English, or maybe just covering the areas that we needed to in my class time. And then I was focusing more on the children. I wanted to talk to them more, I wanted to understand them more. And the children actually ended up working really well in my class, because they really wanted to get their work done so we could move on to that part of the lesson.
Right.
And that's when I realized, okay, there is actually a lot more I want to do. Just the present tense and the present perfect and the pronunciation and the grammar and everything is really not touching me enough.
Yeah.
And I loved my time teaching. I got to meet some, you know, fantastic children, and I really value the time that I had there. And that is really what led me to deciding that I wanted to you know, train further. And I came across the Montessori approach, because that also coincided with my my time teaching English, and also when I was expecting my second daughter, Yasemin. And then I started thinking, okay, now as a slightly more experienced mother, now what are you going to offer your child in terms of childcare and education? And that got me thinking more. And I realized I really wanted to offer an alternative. After my experience in teaching, I realized it was an alternative that I wanted. And after some research, and I came across the Montessori approach, I knew that was what I wanted to develop myself in and train in. And then I decided to take it one step further and actually start working towards bringing it to Northern Cyprus and how we could offer it here. So yes, that was another switch that I made.
Yeah, so now you are finally in education.
Yes.
I mean, you've been doing that for many, many years now as well.
Yes.
And also now, specifically Montessori.
Yes.
You have your own school, the Bambini Montessori
Nursery.
Yes. Which is now in the Guinea area in Karawanlu.
That's right.
We'll give information about that towards the end of the interview, about how people can reach you. So, let's tell our viewers now about Montessori, because I've heard of Montessori and I know a little bit about it because my sister's in education as well. So I've heard about it over the years, but it's something that is mentioned as a name, a Montessori school, but do we really understand what it's all about? So Dincel, can you help us to explain? Let me just quickly share the notes that Denise, my colleague, put out for us. She says that the Montessori method of education, developed by Maria Montessori, is a child-centered educational approach based on scientific observations of children. Montessori's methods have been used for over 100 years in many parts of the world, and the Montessori method views the child as a one who is naturally eager for knowledge and capable of initiating learning in a supportive, thoughtfully prepared learning environment. It attempts to develop children physically, socially, emotionally, and cognitively. So, if I am reading this right, basically the child is in charge. Tell us a bit about how would you describe Montessori in a few words, if you can?
Yes, that's very difficult, but I'm still working on refining that.
Right.
But I think the main thing would be that the Montessori approach is one where it is child-led. Like you read in your summary, it is a child-led approach where the child is not a passive figure in a classroom, in a school. The child is actually a very active member of that community and has a voice and has a choice. And the child very soon that enters a Montessori environment is actually aware of that very soon. And for a lot of children, it is quite a novelty, and it is actually quite alien to be expected to make a choice, to be expected to do whatever they choose. So a lot of children initially are a bit hesitant about, oh, you mean I can actually take the the scissors from the shelf and you're not going to come with me. So they actually question that in the beginning, but soon they come to really respect the choice and the freedom that they have. So it is really about giving children what they are intrinsically programmed to have, and that is independence. Children are born striving to become independent. You know, from the moment of birth, they start focusing on meeting their own physical needs and how to find them, how to meet those needs through crying and things like this. So they start working towards taking care of themselves. And what they are programmed to do is to become independent human beings. And unfortunately, in the modern world that we live now, which is very, very fast paced, and we really don't have the time to wait for children to meet their own needs. We're doing a lot of this for them. But actually, while we're doing this, we're taking that opportunity away from the children of learning for themselves and discovering for themselves. Because if you think back, I don't know how many years ago, depends on where you are in the world, but children were not really being sent to school until the age of 6, 7 years old.
Yes.
And until then, the children were out playing, spending time at home, spending time with the family, spending time in the garden. And all this time was very actually precious, valuable time that they had to determine what they would play, what they would make. Would they lay down? Would they sit down? Would they run around now? It was totally up to the child up until primary school age.
Yeah.
But now we are in a world, let's say, where people are becoming more and more pressured to send their children to school a lot earlier because they feel the child needs it. So basically what we offer in Montessori schools, let's say, or what the Montessori philosophy offers is a more home-like environment where the child does have a say. The child is not expected to be passive. The child is not feeling under pressure.
Yeah.
And the child can function without an adult. So a Montessori environment would be very carefully set up to meet the needs of the children within the setting, and which enable the child and every single child to move freely and decide if they want to work on the floor, at a table, by the window, or actually sit down and look at a book for a while because I need a quiet time. So it's actually giving them back that freedom that they used to have, let's say, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
So maybe our parents had that kind of childhood. I think even we did.
I think, because I remember when I was growing up, I didn't go to primary school. I didn't go to preschool.
Yes.
I went to primary school at the age of 6 when I had to in the UK. I think for 1 year, between 5 and 6, I was in Cyprus. So I actually started school at the time that I should have done.
Yes.
No preschool then.
Yes.
Obviously, we're going back many, many years now. But you're right in what you're saying. It's quite funny that we've gone back into a circle, haven't we?
Yes.
Where we all think now, oh, the younger we send our kids to school, the better it'll be. But actually, you know, maybe the freedom we had when we were children, we became more. I don't know, we had more self-confidence, more freedom, more happier children as we were growing up.
Yes.
I want to stress that your Montessori school is actually aimed from 2 to 6 year olds.
That's right, yes.
So those who want to send their children to preschool before primary school, this is an option. And as you said, going back to basics again, I want to ask you though, Dincel, because it sounds quite great and fabulous way to teach, but let's say a new kid comes to your school at the age of 2, a young boy, and he's just running around. Now, okay, that's good, let him express himself, let him do that. But if you've got 4 or 5 other kids in that same area, what happens if he's disrupting or she's disrupting? What happens if you know, you want to give them the freedom, but is there no point where you have to interfere and say, well, look, you know, can you now do something? Can you choose something? I mean, how does it work in that respect?
Well, it depends on, I mean, with the example you've given, for example, a 2-year-old child, it doesn't actually happen very often because they are so intrigued with the environment that they walk into and the freedom that they're given. They are really more focused on the material that is presented to them in the environment, and they spend a lot of their time saying, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this now, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this again.
Yeah.
So they are so focused on the work that is offered to them, and that is the whole idea. So we design the environment like any other Montessori environment. It's designed in such a way that will appeal to the child. So a 2-year-old's environment will be designed for a 2-year-old. So we don't have material and activities away until the teacher decides it's time for teaching, as we know in traditional schooling.
Yeah.
The classroom is fully equipped and set up every day in the same way. So when a child walks in, if a child decides that, okay, he actually wants to play with the doll's house, for example, he can do so. It's there. He knows where it is, and he knows what he needs to do to use it. If the child has decided that, I don't know, he wants to start painting the pebbles, that's fine. He knows where it is, and he knows the material that he needs in order to do that activity as well.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the child can actually do a lot of things for himself in that classroom, and that is a novelty that they really enjoy.
That is actually the important aspect, I think, of Montessori, is because what you're saying here is sort of like, okay, come and sit down, and I'll bring you your pencils and colouring books, or the pebble that you want to paint, and here are the paints. The child is actually taught to do everything himself or herself.
Yes.
And then when the activity is finished, they also pack it away, put it back to where they found it.
Exactly, exactly. And that actually helps them, because to some this sounds almost strict, let's say, or as if we have an expectation above the child's capabilities, but they are so capable of doing so much. We just don't usually give them the opportunity to do it, let's say, in a home environment. But yes, they are, this way, they are encouraged to respect the work that they have at hand. They're encouraged to respect the environment that they're in. And in the classrooms, we don't have many numbers of one activity. So every activity is unique. So if, let's say, Bob wants to work with the blocks, and let's say Janet is working with the blocks, then Bob can physically see that that's taken, and they
have to wait.
They have to wait their turn. So that again is something that we don't need to tell them. And again, we have some people asking us, for example, what about sharing? Then they don't share. There is a lot of concern, I feel, among families about, well, how will they learn to share? It's really difficult for a 2-year-old, for example, to share. The 2-year-old's world is about herself only. And everything has to be about her. So it's really difficult to expect a 2-year-old child to share. And it's also actually quite disrespectful to suggest that, okay, this activity that you've been working on now for 20 minutes over and over and over again, Sally would like to do this too. That is an intrusion, that is disrespectful, and it's breaking that child's flow of concentration, which is not what we want. A concentrating child is a developing child, is a happy child, is a growing child, and they need that time to themselves.
And also the child who wants that activity has to learn to wait its own turn.
Absolutely.
Because the same thing might happen to him or her when they
exactly.
They don't want to share next when they take over. So why should they expect to be given something?
Yes, exactly. And they do. In a very, very short time, they realise, this is how it works. For some, you really see them trying to suppress that urge to just grab it. But that is, again, an opportunity for that child to develop some inner discipline, some self-discipline, which is going to benefit that child later. So we don't need to distract that child. We don't need to entertain that child because he or she can't have the activity that he wants there and then. That child just learns to deal with that in their own way. And that is really where the discipline comes from in the Montessori setting. It's an inner discipline that the child learns to develop through a respect for his or her peers, for the environment, for the routine, for the order, for the staff that is in the same environment with them. So it's all based on respect, and that they soon learn how to work and function in that quite well. And if there's anything out of order or out of place, they're the first to notice, because order is absolutely crucial in the early years.
It's a great way to get children to, you know, learn discipline and to educate them in a fun, but in an ordered way as well. You know, no mayhem. Although sometimes you see other kids running around. That's what I was asking about. The mayhem. Yeah, but you're saying that because it's such an awe-inspiring place, that mayhem is sort of like goes out the window.
It does. Yes. I mean, there are moments, of course, but there is usually a reason behind that. There is usually something more that we need to focus on as staff in the classroom. But generally, they are so intrigued in the work that they have at hand, and what they're doing and what they want to do, because it is totally theirs. That activity that they have picked up and chosen a spot in the classroom and sat down and been working on is so precious to them. They don't want any disruption, and they don't want to talk to any other child either. And that is just such a beautiful environment to be in, because you have, for example, these little people walking around, picking up work, picking up a recipe book, going and finding all the utensils that he or she needs, setting it up, putting on the apron, and cleaning up the floor when they've spilt something. And it's just so beautiful to see them taking this responsibility and really enjoying this independence, and the fulfillment that they get from that is just, it touches my heart every single day, I have to say, because they don't want a reward, they don't want a star or anything like that. Just for the sheer satisfaction of doing it for themselves, they will work relentlessly on whatever they've chosen.
And that is something quite different for the Cypriot family, I think, who are so used to doing everything for their child. I know that, you know, some schools don't like it when mothers and fathers help their children, let's say the way to put their coats on. A child has to learn to pick up their coat, you know, from the peg, put it on at the age of 4 or 5 or whatever their age, a young age. Don't do it for them. Let them do it. Become independent people.
Absolutely.
They
can. I mean, our children do this from the age of 2. Or they are given the opportunity to do it from the age of 2. So we show them a little trick into how they can do it maybe better without an adult helping them. And very, very soon they figured that out, and they work on that until they can do it themselves. And that is so precious for them. And they are capable, but I think, like you say, this is something with the Turkish Cypriot culture, on raising children, on caring for children, generally, however old they may be. It doesn't really matter. Yes, which is something which does sometimes hold back children, because they're not actually following their own natural path, which is what the Montessori philosophy really wants to give the children. But yes, they do have to sometimes suppress that, and that opportunity is taken from them. So that child's natural discovery or development is actually taken away from them in a way. So they miss out on that sometimes. And that does, or that can make children feel more dependent, more insecure, more anxious. But when a child is doing things for himself, and is constantly trying things out and doing things and succeeding, because in the end they do, that is such a boost to their self-esteem and their self-confidence. And a child like that is happier. A child like that doesn't have much anxiety. A child like that is ready to learn more and more and more, and talk with other children and socialize, and it just really sets them off. It's just such a great foundation for them.
And also, obviously, at the moment in the TRNC, there aren't any primary schools which are geared to just Montessori teaching. So
No.
once they graduate from your school at the age of 6,
Yes.
and they go on to formal education at another establishment, probably it'll help them to fit in easier. They're not going to be so anxious because they've got their freedom, they've had
Yes.
their self-esteem boosted. They're not going to be timid and shy like maybe a child who is starting from day one at a new school.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I want to ask you about, because I was intrigued about the learning methods, and I know that the school uses natural, not too much plastic, but wooden.
Yes, as much as possible.
As much as possible, natural toys or games or utensils.
Yes.
And what about reading and writing and arithmetic? I mean, do you look at the child and wait for them to be ready, or do you have certain criteria for when they have to do things like this? I mean, how does the formal education side work?
Okay, so in the Montessori classroom, if we focus on the 3 to 6 class, so we have a class of ages 3 to 6, which is called vertical grouping. So we can have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds within the same environment. And the advantage of this is that the younger learners, the younger children, have the opportunity to learn from their older peers.
Yeah.
And children just love watching and learning from slightly older children. They feel less threatened, they feel less intimidated, and they get a huge satisfaction from that. The older children have the opportunity to then repeat what they've already learned, maybe, and show a younger child, and that is also such a huge boost to their confidence and also to their learning, because they're actually repeating what they've been taught or shown. So it's this kind of environment that we have, and it is child-led, like I said before, so the children are free to explore the whole classroom. So we have curriculum areas, and the shelves are designed according to those curriculum areas. So there is language and literacy, there is numeracy, there is knowledge and understanding of the world, there is sensorial, activities of everyday living, and there is creativity. So a child is free to explore all these shelves, all these areas, and choose what they want to work with at whatever time in the morning work cycle, which is 2.5 to 3 hours that they have. So that is their lesson time, let's say, if we compare it to the timetable of the lessons of a traditional school.
Yeah.
So they have one big block of lesson time, and that is their learning time, which they determine. So in answer to your question about the reading and writing aspect of it, everything is so interlinked. So before a child can go on to reading and writing, they really need to practice, let's say, the activities of everyday living, the sensorial, because for a child to write, the fine motor skills need to be in place.
Yes.
The hands, the wrist, the fingers need to develop well enough for the child to be able to manipulate a writing tool.
Yeah.
And this comes through practice. And what children love practicing with are activities of everyday living. So we could have trays and trays of pouring activities, spooning activities, using tongs, using tweezers, and these are all aimed at developing a child's fine motor skills and concentration. So it's not until a child's physical development is met, and also a child's concentration is at a certain level, can we expect a child to go on to reading and writing? So in the classroom, the child gets to see. So a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old will observe maybe the 5-year-old working with the letters. The child will hear the sounds, will watch a lesson being presented, because all lessons are presented individually. So if, for example, a child is interested in doing letters and goes to the Montessori directress in the classroom and says, please can you show me, I want to do some of these today, then that child will be sat down individually and will be taught directly. So it's not, letters are not taught to the whole group. So it's done individually, depending on what the child is interested in. And the younger ones are watching this, and observing, and they're actually absorbing quite a lot. And when a child decides, actually, I really want to do that because, you know, I've been seeing it, and then I've noticed this letter here, and I've noticed it's in the child's world, then that child is ready. And that child comes to us and says, Dincel, I want to do that. What you did yesterday over there, I want to do that with you too. Yeah. And you think, okay, let's give it a go. And that's when we will present.
Dincel, you make it sound such a wonderful place. I wish I was back to. I wish I was a 3-year-old again, and I could come to the Montessori school.
I wish I had that background.
I wish so as well. But the Montessori method of education is in the TRNC, and hopefully you will get accreditation soon as well, internationally.
Yes.
At the moment, you, as we said, you're based in Karawal. Where are you exactly? How can we just? What's a landmark near you, or?
A landmark.
Are you on the? I think I've seen your.
We're actually in a very residential area, but we're just off the bypass road. Yes.
Right. Okay, near the bypass road is Bambini Montessori Nursery.
Yes.
And you've got 2 classes.
Yes.
2 trained teachers.
Yes.
And you sort of like fit in with the academic year that we normally have. So a new academic year will begin in September, I suppose.
That's right. Yes.
Getting ready for a new academic year.
Yes.
So it's very exciting for you. Are you happy finally now? Is this your niche? Is this where?
I think I am where I am the happiest. Yes, now.
Well,
definitely.
It's good to see. I mean, you've got a lovely smiling face, and you know you're doing very well. And I think that you found your niche in teaching.
Yes, I think so. In the end.
Yeah, and you explained it so well to all of us here. So I want to say thank you very much, Dincel, for coming in today.
Thank you.
Good luck with the school. Let us know how things go on.
I will do.
And I'm sure that people can find you on Facebook.
Yes, we have a Facebook page for the school. We don't have a website at the moment, but we are. They can find us on Facebook under Bambini Montessori Nursery.
Right. So if they see it now, let's say if they're driving by, is there somebody there during the day to speak with?
It's holiday time at the moment. If the telephone number is available on the Facebook page or on the signs, it's also there, so they can call us and reach us. But it is holiday time now, so we'll be closed until end of August.
Right. So in September, find Dincel and her teachers and her wonderful kids at the Bambini Montessori Nursery, and it sounds brilliant. Like I said, I wish I could go back to school again, but thank you for bringing that to our attention here, and good luck with the new academic year.
Thank you very much, John. It was a pleasure being here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And with that, we've come to the end of a cup of conversation with Dincel Şükrettin. Hope you enjoyed it, and until we meet again, have a great week. See you soon. Bye-bye.